All right, we are live. Welcome back to Getting Real. I am your host, Monick Halm. And on this show, we dive into real conversations about money, mindset, investing, and success. And today we have an incredible guest. I'm so excited and honored and thrilled to have Barbara Huson with us today. She's a leading expert on women, wealth, and power, a best-selling author, financial therapist, and wealth coach. She's been my coach for quite a few years and a mentor and a dear friend. And I'm so excited that she's here.
Thank
And if
you.
you've ever felt stuck when it comes to money, you don't want to miss this conversation. Why do so many women struggle with money? And more importantly, how do we fix it? Barbara is here to help us rewire our mindset and break through financial barriers. So, by the end of this episode, you'll know the biggest mistakes that women make with money, the mindset shifts that will change everything for you, and the most important action you can take right now to start building wealth. I'm excited. So, welcome, Barbara. I'm so excited you're here.
I'm so excited to be here too. Thank you, Monique. I adore you and I love talking to you.
Likewise. Yeah. We've had several, lots of conversations, but I think I'm so excited for everybody listening because, every time we talk, I get these just powerful nuggets that are just life changing. So I'm super excited to get into it. But before we get into what you've got going on now and how what are some very tactical things that women especially can do to shift around money, let's talk about how you got here because you have a really fascinating story that started with a financial crisis of your own. So, can you take us back to how you got on this path of helping women around wealth and money?
Yeah, well, this was not intentional. Believe me, this is not where I expected to be. So I grew up wealthy. My father was the R of H in our block. And every time I asked him about money, anything about money, he would always respond the same. He'd say, don't worry, don't worry. And under that was the unspoken assumption that there'll always be a man to take care of you. So I thought this was great advice. I loved it. I didn't understand money. I just wanted to spend it. And there was always a man. First, there was my father, and then there was my husband, who was a stockbroker. So he was perfect, right? Well, what I found out very early in our marriage is that he was a compulsive gambler. And over the course of our 15 years together, every year for 15 years, I'd find out that he was gambling, losing my money, my inheritance. And here's the thing, I continued to let him manage it. He paid all the bills, he did all the investing, because that's how terrified and intimidated I was by anything financial. Finally, after 15 years, we got a divorce. And I decided money's not my thing. I do not want to deal with money. Well, I have this theory that if you don't deal with your money will deal with you. And in the next year, I got tax bills for way over almost $2 million. Well, I did not have anywhere close to a million, not even close. My ex had left the country and my father wouldn't lend me the money. And that's when I knew I had to get smart. So I did what you're supposed to do. I read the books, I went to classes, I subscribed to newsletters, but my eyes would glaze over, my brain would fog up, and I felt helplessly stupid. But I had to get smart. I had 3 daughters, young daughters. I was not going to raise them on the street. I was committed, and I really believe that when you make a commitment, like a down to your toes, no backdoor commitment, the universe revolves to help you reach your goal. And I was writing for the San Francisco Business Times. I was a journalist, and I got hired to interview women as a freelance project, to interview women who were smart with money. It was unbelievable. These interviews changed my life. I not only got smart about my own money, but I wrote my first book Prince Charming isn't coming, how women get smart about money. And now, 7 books later, here am I talking to you as an expert on money.
Incredible.
It is.
It's such an incredible story. And so I had okay. Well, let me ask you this question, because it's like, how, what smart women we're doing around money. Why are there so many smart, capable women who are struggling to make or manage money? Like you're brilliant. And yet when, at the beginning, you couldn't, not that you couldn't, but you had that glaze and
yeah. I believe, and I realized this when I was interviewing those women, I absolutely believe, and 7 books later, all these interviews, I really am convinced that women's problems with money have nothing to do with money. It has to do with their fear of or ambivalence about power. Because it's not about learning the difference between a stock and a bond. It's not about the practical stuff. It's about who you have to become, a powerful woman, in order to become a container that can attract, that can keep, that can grow your wealth. And I remember when I was writing that book, my first book, and I remember interviewing a psychologist who specialized in money. And I was telling her my theory that it wasn't until these women really owned their power that they were able to really start building their wealth and become financially successful. And I said to her, why are women so afraid of their power? And she said to me something that gave me total body chills. She said, because powerful women have been burned at the stake. And it's true. We women, for centuries, for our ancestors and our ancestors before that, the consequences we have suffered for trying to be powerful. Let me explain. Let me define a powerful woman. A powerful woman is someone who knows who she is, who knows what she wants, and here's the thing, expresses that in the world unapologetically. So in other words, it's about speaking up, speaking your truth instead of watering ourselves down so we don't make waves.
Yeah.
You get that. I know you
I do. And as someone who's been, attacked publicly.
Yes.
And it's hard to not want to run and hide.
That's why we need support. We women. That's why you have your community. I have mine. I think it's really important that it's like we are walking to the edge of the cliff and we have to jump. And that's scary as hell. But when you're surrounded by support, it makes it so much easier and feels so much safer.
That's so important. It's crucial to have that. And I am grateful to have that with your community, because I'm part of your community as well as my own. Because, there'll be times as we are afraid we're going to go out there and we're going to be attacked. And
sometimes we are.
Yeah.
And that's right. We need to go. And when I for my second book, which was Secrets of Six-Figure Women, I interviewed 154 women who made 6 and 7 figures. And that's what I found. As one person said to me, many said it, but I love the way she said it, is success is a social activity. We can't do this alone.
Yes.
They all had their peeps. They all had their people who could support them. They all had their way showers. They all had their cheerleaders. And they all had, because for women, financial success can be a very emotional process, as you and I both know.
Yes.
Very emotional. They all had, which I found fascinating, what I call their love nest. This was people that may not be on the same path, but they could, like as many of these women said to me, there's this little girl inside me that just wants to be liked. But when you're dealing with financial success, when you're dealing in the world of work, you've got to toughen up. And that's why I think having your love nest, having people you can just be that little girl with and break down is so important.
Yeah. I think it's so crucial to have, especially sisterhood.
Sisterhood,
Like,
yes.
like, and with the sisterhood, it's like a group of women that will just love you.
You know,
Just will
there's,
love on.
yes.
Yeah.
There, I interviewed the president, her name's Marilyn Firestone of the WPA, the Women's Presidents Association, where the average revenue of a woman's business was $11 million. And she said to me, it wasn't the business problems that were the most, we've talked about the most. It was the emotional stuff. It was the scary stuff. It was the fearful stuff that was the genesis of most of our conversations.
So true.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had a conversation before where you talked about, you did your Secrets of Six-Figure Women book, and then you started to work on a book for about seven-figure women. And you started to notice something different about them. So talk about that, and then what happened next?
So I was always a chronic under earner until I wrote that book, Secrets of Six-Figure Women. And I started making six figures, which is like 3 or 4 times more than I ever made before I even finished writing that book. And so, wait, what was the question again?
When you started to work on the book about
Oh, yeah. So what
yeah.
happened is
Yeah.
so my goal had always been make 6 figures. I was making 6 figures. And one night I just woke up in the middle of the night, sat up straight, and I had this new goal. I was going to make millions, help millions, give millions. And I thought, yeah, that's what I want. And I thought, and I know how to do it. I'll interview women who make millions. And so I did. I had no trouble finding women. I interviewed, I forget how many. Well, 3 years later, I had no book. I was not anywhere close to making millions. And I remember talking to, it was 2009. And that was probably one of the worst years I'd had in a long time financially. And I remember I was talking to a coach and she said, Barbara, you're too into doing. You need time for just being. So I took those transcripts of those interviews and I went on this 4-day retreat. I checked myself into a hotel, didn't talk to anybody, and looked at those. What was I missing? What was in those interviews that I was missing? And I saw it so clearly. I was so dazzled with what these women were making and my desire to do it, that I wasn't seeing that they were doing it in a very different way than what the world models. And I called this new game they were playing Sacred Success. And that was, then after that, I wrote that book called Sacred Success, A Course in Financial Miracles. And do you want me to say any more about that?
Yeah, talk about what they were doing that was so different that they were modeling.
So sacred success, I define sacred success as pursuing your soul's purpose, what you're on this planet to do for your own bliss, because it makes you so happy, and the benefit of others. And here's what I realized. The goal of this, well, let me back up. There's 3 levels of financial development. There's survival, stability, and affluence. Survival is not enough. Stability is just enough. And affluence is more than enough. To go from survival to stability, you have to have a profit motive. You have to love money. You have to want money. Money is a good thing. So many people are ambivalent about actually dislike money or the people that have it.
Yeah, thinking money is the root of all evil, or the rich people are greedy and evil, terrible.
Exactly. But once you get to that stability, once you get to just enough, going to affluence is a whole different process. You have to give up a profit motive as your primary goal. It's still an intended outcome. You want to make money. You want to have a profit. But the primary goal of sacred success, and sacred success is the process of going from stability to affluence. The primary goal is greatness. And I define greatness, I'm paraphrasing a quote by Fred Buchner. Greatness is that place where your deep gladness, doing what you were put on this planet to do, meets the world's deep hunger.
Oh, I love that. That's almost like your zone of genius, right? That's like where you're like, yeah, what you were born to do.
Yes, it's finding that sweet spot, what you are here to do, and then being richly rewarded for it.
Amen. I love that.
Yeah.
That's so great. But to get there, you have to get first to the, stability.
You have to get stability. That is true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Beautiful.
The
All
way
right.
you get stability, if you have trouble, there's 4 prongs to get to stability.
Okay. How does one get stability?
What the financial industry focuses on is the first prong, the practical side, which is the, understanding the difference between a stock and a bond, knowing how to negotiate, all the practical stuff. But if you have trouble with that, then it's the inner work of wealth you have to look at. You have to look at your beliefs, your attitudes, your whole relationship with money. But it's not enough just to get to the psychological barriers and go through those. It's also, there's a spiritual aspect, what I call the higher work of wealth. And I think this is really what motivates women. Because most women, once we reach financial stability, we're really motivated by more money. We might want it, but that's not what motivates us. What motivates us is doing what we're on this planet to do, is helping others, is making a difference, is giving back.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. So you said there are 4 prongs. So the first was kind of practical. And you talked about the
inner work. There's the outer work of wealth, the inner work of wealth, which is the psychological, emotional, the higher work of wealth, which is the spiritual, what you're here to do. That's your incentive. That's your motivation. And then there is the deeper work of wealth. And that is the mind-brain connection. And when you understand how the mind influences the brain and how our brain influences our behavior, it makes it very easy to understand how to reprogram our mind so that we change our behavior. Because if you try to focus on changing the behavior, that can feel like an uphill battle. But when you focus on rewiring those neural pathways that are causing that behavior, then it becomes much easier.
And that's what your latest book was about, Rewire for Wealth. So talk to us about that process of rewiring our brain for wealth, because it's such, I mean, all her books are great. So you're listening, get all of them. And Rewire for, I don't know, it's hard to, I love them all, but it's kind of my favorites, but Sacred Success and Rewire for Wealth. But they're all really, really good. But Rewire for Wealth, like, talk about that process, because it's so profound, because I've seen this with my goddesses, right? If what's happening here between your ears is not, it's not like in alignment with what you say you want, it doesn't happen. So
what happened is I was really struggling, because I saw how there were women I worked with, they would just get it and fly with it. Financial success came fairly easy, and there were others that just couldn't get it. And I was determined to find the key to unlock the door that kept them stuck. And one day I was on my email and I saw this article about neuroscience. I knew nothing about neuroscience, but the second I read that article, I knew that was the missing piece. So I spent about 4 or 5 years studying neuroscience and figuring out how to work it with my program and how to help people in a very simple way train their mind to rewire their brain. And I came up with 3 simple, I call them simple steps, but it's very challenging, especially in the beginning.
Yeah. Simple, but not always easy.
Yes.
Okay. So what are the steps?
Yes. So I'll say the 3 steps, but the key, this need only take a few minutes. So let me just explain very quickly. Your brain, which is an organ in your head, the way it's wired, that's what controls your behavior. You're spending, you're saving, you're inhaling, you're exhaling. It's all controlled by your brain.
Yeah.
Trying to go against a hardwired brain is like trying to go against gravity. It's exhausting and practically impossible. But when you understand that the brain, those neural pathways are shaped by your mind is a non-physical entity that is the source of thoughts and feelings. And is those thoughts and feelings that when they're repeated often start wiring your brain, which controls your behavior. So the key is not to focus on changing your behavior, not to focus on spending less, but to focus on changing your thoughts and feelings so you will weaken the spending neural pathway to strengthen the saving neural pathway. And you can do that. There's 3 steps. So I'm going to say them very quickly. And then I will explain each one also briefly. The first one is recognize. The second is reframe. And the third is respond differently. So in other words, let's say you have trouble saving. Okay. Or there's just never enough. Okay. Let's say there's just never enough. Or you don't feel like you're enough, that you deserve it. So just notice when you have those thoughts, I'm not enough, there's never enough, you start to be aware of your thoughts. And as you notice, what?
That's the recognize.
They're recognize, but you recognize not with criticism, not with judgment, not, oh, you dumb thing, why are you thinking that again? No, that's not nice. You think, oh, isn't that interesting? You recognize with curiosity. Isn't that interesting? I'm having a thought that there's never enough. Because that's what I heard growing up. And I just keep thinking there's never enough, and there never is enough. Because there won't be enough, because it's called confirmation bias. The brain will never let you see, will never let you do anything that doesn't confirm a belief. So it's not bad. So you just notice, oh, I have a belief there's never enough. You notice. And the second is you reframe it. What would you rather believe? And what you do is you create an affirmation that is the opposite of there's never enough. So it could be, oh, money comes so easily, or there's more than enough. Whatever that affirmation, it may take a little bit of time, but you think of something simple, not a long one, but something very short, very simple, because it's repetition. It's the repetition of there's never enough that got it embedded in your brain in the first place. So you have to repeat the reframe over and over and over. So you recognize with curiosity, you reframe it with what you'd rather believe and repeat it as an affirmation over and over. But here's the key. The third is you must respond differently than you normally would, as if that affirmation were true. So in other words, let's say you don't respond as if, oh, there's plenty of money. You don't go out and spend more because there's plenty of money. You think about, how can I respond differently that would create plenty of money? So maybe you start doing automatic savings. Maybe you see that pair of shoes that you have to have, and you give yourself 24 hours to decide, or you take the amount you would spend and put it in a jar, but you respond differently than you normally would. You keep doing these 3 steps and you do them consistently, you will notice a difference in 3 to 4 weeks, a huge difference.
It's true. It's incredible. It is such a powerful, powerful practice. And I've definitely seen that with myself. I was just, I had this thing where money came in, I had to spend it. It would just go. And I mean, I wasn't conscious of it, but it was like, okay.
Yes, like, where the hell did the money go?
I was like, I don't know where it went. And I really had, and I couldn't stay conscious of where it went. I couldn't track it. I couldn't like, and so first I had this recognition of it, this awareness that, oh, well, that I even had that thought or that that behavior. And well, I saw the behavior first and it's like, what am I thinking? That starts to like what's the thought there? Because that was hard to tell because I would kind of go a little bit unconscious around that, but starting to see like that there was this thoughts like money is, there's some danger to having it. People get angry, and like I would have my parents, I would just remember them fighting around money. And so I had this subconscious like, oh, if I have money, people are angry. So I need, but it was like, that was below the surface. And so being able to recognize that, respond differently. It's like, it's like, I love money. Money loves me. Money is safe. I am safe. And then just in starting to write down everything that came in.
Yes. You responded differently by starting to become conscious of what came in.
Yeah. And like staying conscious, and that, just that process made such a big difference. But it's really brilliant. And it's so helpful to think about that. And
you can use this process with everything. Like I use it not just with money, but like if I'm scared to do something, I recognize what thoughts are scaring me, and then I reframe it. I just had something to do. I keep it written down. I don't know where it is now, but I just had something to do that scared me and I couldn't do it. And I went blank, and my team kept saying, come on, come on. And finally I thought, what is the thought under that? And I thought, I just can't do it. I can't. That was the only thought. I can't. I'm not capable. And so I reframed it. I can handle this. So you don't just say the word, you say it with feeling. It's the thought plus the feeling that gives it the oomph. I said, I can handle this. And what happened when I said, I can handle this, I kept saying it over and over again, is ideas came to me. Oh, why don't I talk to this person about doing this? Oh, and ideas came. And before I knew it, the project was done in no time.
Love that. That's so good. Oh, all right. There's so much else I could talk to you about. That's a lot. Y'all, you just need to read her books because it's time to start to wrap this up. But definitely get Rewire for Wealth and Sacred Success and Prince Charming Isn't Coming and Overcoming Under Earning and Secrets of Six-Figure Women. And I think I'm missing a couple, but get everything. Barbara Huson. And then before it was under Barbara Stanny.
Yeah.
So you might have to search there, but definitely pick up her books. All right. So before we end with our Trinity, our brag or gratitude and a desire, let me ask, what is the best way for people to find out more about you and what you're up to?
I think my website, which is Barbara Huson, Huson, Barbara-Huson.com.
Okay. Barbara-Huson.com. Go there to get all the things. Subscribe. All right. So now it's time for the Trinity.
Oh.
And I know as a fellow sister goddess, you know all about Trinity. So what is your brag?
I brag, I'm talking to you. I brag, you have this very popular podcast and you asked me to be on. So that's my brag.
I brag that you're on. I got you on there. That's a brag for me. But I'm honored. Thank you. Well bragged. What is, sorry, I totally messed up the response. I should just have said well bragged. But
You're doing great.
I'm so excited to have you. Oh, this is awesome. And what is one thing you're grateful for?
I'm grateful for my health. I'm really grateful. I went through a few years of having some shaky health issues. I'm just so grateful.
Yeah, I'm grateful for your health too. And lastly, what is one desire?
One desire, I feel like there's something next, and I don't know what it is. And my desire is what's next? Clarity.
So shall your desire be, or so much better than you can imagine, under grace and in perfect ways.
Thank you. Oh, this is great. Thank you. I'm
Great.
taking that in. I appreciate it.
Thank you again for joining us. That was awesome. It's always great to have, conversations with you. Again, you all can connect with Barbara at barbara-huson.com and find out about the Wealth Connection and all her books and her incredible offerings. You won't regret it. And subscribe and to Getting Real for another incredible conversation. Get real, stay real. Bye-bye.